Ready for Game Lab round number 6, plotting with variables. This is the topic of the day. In this assignment, what you're going to be doing is building a face. It's going to have a head, eyes, and a mouth. And you'll plot it on the game screen, but instead of plugging numbers directly into the drawing blocks, we're going to use variables. I'm going to show you how to do that. You have to create and assign the variables. Variable names have to start with a letter. They cannot contain spaces, and spelling and capitalization kind of matters, so you have to be consistent when you name a variable and you try to use the variable. The blocks needed for the variables are in the variable drawer. I'll show you that in a minute. When you're plotting ellipses or rectangles or lines or points or whatever you're going to make, use variables instead of entering numbers. If your drawing is a little bit off, then you just adjust the variables to fix it. There's some bonus options here. If you add extras, you can get some bonus. Extras could be things like a hat or a monocle, one of those single lens like things that somebody wears on their eye. You could add a body, you could add ears. Or I'm going to show you an idea of a shape to mask part of the picture. I put mask in quotes so you can see. I'll show you what I mean. 5 points for each extra thing that you do. The limit on bonus is 15 points. It's not unlimited bonus, but you could get some bonus if you want to do it. Rename it when you're all done. Call it something like face and turn it in when you're finished. I'm going to hop over here to, that's not what I want, but I'm going to get over here and I'll just start a new game lab. And I'm going to do a quick version here. So let's take a look. Here we go. Get rid of the draw loop. Still don't need it. Not today. Let's go to the drawing drawer. Bring over a background color. I do a lot of just light gray for my backgrounds, but you do whatever you want. Doesn't matter. All right, I'm going to throw in some comments here, but that's up to you. This is going to be for the head. All right, so let's take a look at this whole variable thing. How does this work? I just want to make a round head. I'm going to use an ellipse command and just make a round head. But we know that for an ellipse, you have to have an X location, a Y location, and you also have to have a width and a height. Let me show you how I'm going to set mine up here. I'm just going to go to this variables drawer right here, and I'm going to do what's called declaring and assigning a variable. So I'm going to use this top block right here that says var, and I'll bring it over and drop it in. Now it needs a name, and the names that you give a variable should make sense for what you're going to use them for. This is going to be my head X. It's going to be an X coordinate for the head, and I'm going to make that 200. So I'm naming the variable and I'm giving it a value as well. All right, here comes another one. I'm going to bring another one over here. Again, if I'm going to draw like a circular head, I'm going to need an X and a Y. So the name of this one is going to be head Y, and that's also going to be 200. I'm going to put it right in the middle of the screen. And then what I'm going to do here next is I'm going to bring over one more of those, and I'm going to call it head, and I'm going to use a thing called camel case. You see how I capitalized the S in head size. That's called camel case, where the beginning is lowercase, and then when you start a new word, you put an uppercase letter at the beginning of the new word. You don't have to do that, but I use it a lot. And that's going to be 300 for me. I'm going to make the head size. Now I'll show you how I'm going to use that. For the head, and all the commands I'm doing right now are that's going to draw the head of the face that I'm about to make. I'm going to hop back over here to the drawing drawer. I'm just going to use a fill color of yellow. Mine's going to be like the classic happy face with yellow and black. All right, so fill color of yellow, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring over my ellipse command. Now, it's going to plug numbers in here, and I know that some of the numbers match, they would work, they would be okay. And, I know somebody's probably saying, well, why don't you just type numbers in there? But the point of this assignment is to take you through creating variables, assigning a value to the variable, and then using the variable. All right, so I know that this is probably not the perfect way to draw this, but this is how we're going to do it today. To get the credit on the assignment, this is how you'll have to do it. All right, so on that ellipse, instead of just leaving it as 200, I'm going to say head X. That's my variable, remember, right up here on line number 3. I created a variable called head X, and so I'm going to plug it in right there. Here in this next spot, I'm going to say head Y. And again, on line number 4, I created a variable called head y, and I gave it a value. And so, the computer should know what that's worth. It's equal to 200. And then here what I'm going to do is I'm going to say head size, and I'm going to use head size both times. Head size. Now this is where spelling and capitalization and everything has to match. If I don't match, when I put in head size here, if I don't match what it says here, it's not going to work. Okay. All right. Well, let's test this much of it, right? I have plugged in some variables. I created some variables, gave them names, gave them values, and then I plugged them in. All right. So when I run the program, so far, so good. That's working okay. It looks all right to me. That's pretty much what I wanted. And again, I know that I could have just plugged in the numbers for that circle, but this is how we're doing it today. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next part of this now, and this is going to be, I'm going to call this face I can't type. Face variables. All right, and there's going to be a number of variables that come along here, so I'm going to go back to the variable drawer, and I'm going to use this first one because I want to declare, I want to create the variable, and I also want to give it a value. So I'm going to bring it over, and I'm going to call this left eye x, and it's going to be, I'm going to try it at 150, and then I'm going to bring one over here for, I'm going to say left eye y. And I'm going to try that at 125. And then I'm going to bring it over another one. There's going to be a bunch of these, and this is going to be right eye x. And that's going to be my right eye x. I'm going to put it 250. And I'm going to bring over another one, because I have to have an x and a y. I'm going to put the eyes on the face, right? So right eye y. And that's going to be, I'm going to try that at 125. Now, here's the thing. When you're assigning variables, show the grid, turn the grid on. If you think that would help, do that. But the other thing is guess. A lot of people, they sit here and they say, well, I don't know. I don't know what size to make it. Well, or what location to use. Make a guess. And then when you run it, you can always come back and change it. I'm going to make one more variable here. I'm going to call it eye size. And I'm going to make it 50. Cool. All right. Now, again, I could proceed a lot of different ways. If I feel like, well, I want to see how I'm doing with these eyes, I could go ahead over here to the drawing command. I could say, okay, I'm going to bring over an ellipse. I'll bring over two of them because there's going to be a left eye and a right eye. And when I say left eye and right eye, I mean the eye to my left is going to be the left eye. Actually, I guess it would be the right eye of the creature, the face, but it's going to be the eye to my left. All right, so instead, on this first ellipse, instead of typing a number, I'm going to say left eye x. All right, you have to remember up here, I created a variable called left eye x, and I said it's worth 150. It's equal to 150, and so I'm going to plug it in right here. This is going to be left eye y. And then this is going to be eye size, and I'm going to use eye size twice there. Oops. Eye size, eye size. This one will be the same idea, except it's going to be right eye x, right, can't type, eye y, and then eye size, and eye size. Well, let's see how I'm doing. I'm going to hit reset. I'm going to hit run. Oh, and you know what? Here's the other thing I ought to do here probably before I draw those. I mean, that's not terrible. It's working. I think they look okay. But I think before I'm going to stick a fill color command in here before I draw those eyes, and I'll just make it black. All right. And I'll hit reset run. And see, that's why you run your program and you check it, because you think, oh gosh, I should have done this or I should have done that. So you just do it and fix it. Okay. Now, it needs a mouth. That's the other requirement. I've got a head and I got eyes. You have to have a mouth. You have to have a mouth. Okay, well, so real quick here, once again, I'm going to go back to my variable drawer and I'm going to make there's going to be I'm going to use 4 of them. You wouldn't have to. It depends on how you're going to make your mouth. I'll show you what I'm going to do. This is going to be a mouth X, and I'm going to set it equal to 200. This is going to be a mouth Y, and I'm going to set it equal to, I'm going to try 240. I may have to adjust this. And I could use mouth size and just use that same number twice, but I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to say mouth width. I'll just say mouth W for width, and I want the width to be, I'm going to make it about 150, and then I'm going to do mouth height, width height, right? An ellipse works with X, Y, width, height. So I'm setting up a different variable for each one. And then let's go ahead and draw it. Let's see how we look here. I'll bring my ellipse over here. And instead of numbers, or when I grade your program, I don't want to see numbers in like those ellipse commands. I want to see variables. So this is going to be mouth X. This is going to be mouth Y. This is going to be mouth width. And this is going to be mouth height. Right here, I defined the variables. They have value, so those numbers are going to get plugged in there. All right, let's reset and run. And there we go. Yay. So that's working. Now here is the last thing I'm going to throw in. This would be considered an extra because now I could come up here, rename this, call this like Phase. I'm going to call it Phase Movie Demo. But you could call it, there we go. Fix that. You could turn this in. It's got a head, it's got an eyes, it's got a mouth. And if you're not interested in doing any extra, you could stop this video right now and go to work. Because really, it's done. I am going to demonstrate an extra piece here. It's this idea of masking. And I'll show you, sorry, I'll show you the idea. All right, so I'm going to need some more variables here, and I'm going to bring over 4 of them again. I'm going to call this a mask. It's just a little trick here. All right, so, and I'm going to have a mask X, and I'm going to set it equal to 200. And I'm going to have a mask Y, and it's going to be 210. And I'm going to do a mask width, and it's going to be 300. And I'm going to do a mask height. W and H is what I'm using there, and it's just going to be 50. It's not going to be very high. Now, so you can see this, I'm going to assign a very bad fill color. All right, I'm going to assign it a fill color of red, and then I'm going to bring over an ellipse. This is going to be another ellipse that I'm about to draw here. And on this ellipse, I'm going to use mask X, mask Y, mask width, and mask height. Reset and run. Now, it kind of looks like a mustache a little bit, which would not be terrible, but here's the thing. And you know what? I think I'm also just up here at the very top for this whole thing, I'm going to put in a no stroke command. I don't want any stroke around these things. All right, so I'm just going to stick in a no stroke command. All right, now here's why I'm doing this. See that red thing? Right? What if I change the color of that to yellow? The fill color to yellow. I'll reset it and run it. It appears to have changed the shape of the mouth is what it did. Right? Are you catching that? Do you see? What if I come back over here and change that to anything but yellow? See that blue thing there? It's laying on top of the oval. If I didn't have the mask in there, this mouth is an oval shape. It's a black oval, right? But this yellow wide oval that I did, it's called I'm calling it a mask because it's covering up part of the mouth. It changes the shape of the mouth. Now, do you have to do that on yours? No. I'm showing you tricks. I'm Batman is what I do. All right, and you could add other, if you want to try a hat or a scar on the face or a nose, put a nose on there. That would be extra because the nose is not required. You could get some bonus points here if you want to. Bonus is up to you. Okay, that's the end of this little demo. You're programming a face and you're using variables to do it. Okay, off you go.